He's in this conversation with Bill Maher, and he says 1 to 2%. And Bill Maher challenges him and says, what are you talking about, 1 to 2%? And then he says, well, 10%, whatever. I'm just pulling these numbers out of you-know-where. What it tells me is he and many like him are not bringing any facts to the conversation. They're bringing fact-less emotion, and that's what they're trying to base policy on, DeRoy.
Well, it's emotion, which is bad enough, but emotion coupled with ignorance, which is really a terrible combination. You know, 0% of slaves had college degrees. 26% of Black Americans have college degrees. How about that? And I mentioned people who succeeded in the public sector. Yeah, the following corporations all had or have Black CEOs: Citigroup, Time Warner, American Express, Merck, Merrill Lynch. In fact, the E. Stanley O'Neill, the head of Merrill Lynch, his father, I believe, was either a sharecropper or a chauffeur. His grandfather was a slave. So the O'Neill family went from slavery to the chairmanship of Merrill Lynch in 2 generations.
I think it's about time that we decide we're going to stop listening to celebrities on pretty much anything, whether it's the vaccine, race relations, or anything else. And if you need more evidence for why we should do that, take a look at John Cougar Mellencamp, who is an 80s, 90s musician who is still touring, I guess doing interviews with Bill Maher. And yeah, pulling things out of his ass would be the polite way to put this, because what he is saying to Bill Maher is so painfully stupid that Bill Maher, still a liberal, hears this stuff and says, what is wrong with you? What in the world is wrong with you? Check this out.
I would say that
us white people love to have Black people entertain us.
I would say that the playing fields are a lot better than the cotton fields. That's what I would say about that. Maybe I'm crazy, John.
The conversation is about whether or not, this is a real thing, whether or not America is an overtly racist nation, and how racist it actually is. John Cougar Mellencamp would tell you it's a very racist place, and Bill Maher would say, come on. We have made a lot of progress. Mellencamp says, no, it's the exact same place. And Black people, they absolutely have it worse than they ever have, including worse than during slavery. And Bill Maher points out that, yes, the playing fields are better than the cotton fields, but again, he's a liberal, so he can get away with even saying that. But John Cougar Mellencamp is so far out of touch with reality here, it goes to show you the bubble he's living in needs to be punctured.
But it seems like making no money as a slave picking cotton was not as good as playing left field for the Yankees. I mean, I'm sure there were reasons why. Dave Winfield has some beefs against Steinbrenner. I'm sure.
No doubt, there is 1 or 2% of Black people in America who have a better life.
There's 1 or 2% of Black people in America that have a better life because slavery doesn't exist. Let me translate that for you, especially if it was said by a Republican. Blacks had it better during slavery. Now, remember, they tried to hang something similar around Ron DeSantis' neck, and it made absolutely no sense, but that wasn't going to stop them. They were going to roll with it no matter what. John Cougar Mellencamp's just straight up saying it. I mean, it's nuts, but he's saying it, and I like that Bill Maher says you're an idiot.
Oh, stop. That's what you think? 1 or 2%?
Okay, let's say 10%. I'm just pulling a number out of my ass.
He says that is out of your ass. And it absolutely is, because that comes directly out of his ass and nowhere else, because there's no way that's even a remotely intelligent comment. But this is what they believe. This is what they believe. They believe that they are somehow living in a world where only 1 or 2% of people are better off than they were during slavery. Now, Mellencamp will probably come back and try to clean this mess up. He's just out of touch and embarrassing. He doesn't need to be canceled or anything stupid like that. He's just an idiot, and he should be treated as such. And occasionally we should look at people and go, you're just an idiot, and you should be treated as such. And most of these celebrities have no idea what they're talking about, and this is a perfect example. Again, once Bill Maher became the voice of reason for the left, you realize that the left was completely lost. This is DeRoy Murdoch with the National Review. He was on Fox Business News, and he had this to say about this completely insane mindset by John Cougar Mellencamp.
100% of Black Americans are better off than slaves. You know why? Because we're not slaves. Let's start with that. I mean, that's an astonishing comment. And this is just a reflection of the attitude on the left, which is Black people are poor and backward and pathetic, and they feel so sorry for us. They want to pat us on the heads. It's incredibly condescending. It's remarkably racist, frankly. And you look at the actual statistics. 50% of Black Americans in this country make more than $50,000 a year. 20% make more than $100,000 a year. And then you look at the Black success in politics. For example, we've had a Black president. We currently have a Black Secretary of Defense. The leader of the Democrats in the House is Hakeem Jeffries. One day he may become Speaker of the House. We've got Black mayors running Los Angeles, New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., almost all of our major cities. I don't think they're running them well, but, they weren't running them during slavery. I promise you that.
It's interesting. He brings up all these things, and he mentions the Black politicians, and he points out that they exist. And then he says, I disagree with how they're doing their job. See, that's how the conversation is supposed to go. You can point out that someone is succeeding and African American and still doing poor at their job. You see, all these things are the same. We are allowed to have these conversations, and it's not racist to say the things that this guy just said about what a poor job they're doing in Atlanta, Chicago, San Francisco, and all these other places. It's completely fine to do, but so the attack on that makes very little sense. And John Cougar Mellencamp saying that blacks were better off during slavery is something that's pretty racist. But he won't see as much attention for it as to say he was one of the front runners for president of the United States on the Republican side.
And so this idea on the part of John Cougar Mellencamp and other people on the left is, again, just a condescending attitude towards blacks. And I wish John Cougar would stop making stupid comments like this and go back to singing about working class white people.
That's a great line there at the end. It really is. But what is most important to point out here is the racism behind all of this. It's the soft racism of low expectations. I mean, think about it. John Cougar Mellencamp thinks that only 1 or 2%, up to 10, are better off now than they were during slavery. And he thinks it's his job to point that out to them and you and everyone else because they can't do it themselves. It's the soft racism of low expectations. And it's really embarrassing to see. And I like that Bill Maher was like, you've got to be kidding me. You're pulling this out of your ass.